The following program is an original production of WICC PBS Chicago.
Tonight, more than 140,000 city workers are joining forces to protect their pensions after watching lawmakers cut benefits to state employees. Will this newly formed union of unions make a difference?
And the tale of the tape, how one Chicago artist became the master of her medium, and now she's sticking to success.
Plus, the cost of progress. A new runway brings new complaints about jet noise near O'Hare. These stories and much more on In the Loop.
Good evening, I'm Chris Bury.
And I'm Barbara Pinto. Tonight we take a closer look at what residents near O'Hare call a disturbing nuisance from above.
For those in the neighborhood, it has long been a sore point, but since a new runway opened last October, complaints about noise have taken off, up more than 500% in the first month.
A coalition of residents, civic groups, and businesses fed up with a constant roar of jet engines are mounting a new campaign to fight back. But will their efforts get off the ground?
I'm having nightmares about this. I had a dream that I had an airplane crash in my backyard.
Diane Yost moved to the upscale Sauganash neighborhood on the city's northwest side 15 years ago. She and her late husband loved the tree-lined streets, the peace and quiet. She never bargained for this. An ear-splitting barrage of constant jet noise now roaring from above.
It's just the constant whine that doesn't ever stop. And then I get vibration at night. I'll get vibrations in my structure, and we're 10 miles from O'Hare.
Yost joins a growing chorus of residents complaining about O'Hare jet noise ever since a new east-west runway opened last October. The new runway is part of the massive $6.6 billion O'Hare modernization plan. Since that runway opened, noise complaints reach record levels, more than any year since 1996, when noise monitoring devices were installed in adjacent city and suburban neighborhoods.
They put up these monitors for the plane, the sound of the planes, but it's really like a show because they have the numbers, they have all that information, and nothing has been done about it.
The window-rattling rumble of jumbo jets landing and taking off at all hours of the day and night prompted Ines Canepa to attend a recent meeting in Park Ridge, organized by a group called Fair Allocation in Runways, or FAIR. Leader Jacques Charlier insists his grassroots effort is not anti-O'Hare.
We're not trying to shut the thing down, and we're not saying, raise O'Hare and let's put houses there. We're saying O'Hare is a neighbor of ours.
FAIR distributed flyers encouraging residents around O'Hare to call in complaints about jet noise. The organization says it simply wants a seat at the table when it comes to the concentration of flights over various neighborhoods. They don't want any one neighborhood to bear the brunt, especially at night. Though only about 30 people attended the meeting, almost everyone expressed frustration about the stepped-up jet noise levels.
I think that we need to call for them to stop construction right now and find money to bring in an independent consultant.
According to the FAA, more than 800,000 flights took off from or landed at O'Hare last year. The expansion plan will eventually increase that capacity to at least 1.2 million flights. With those numbers and the growing volume of complaints from residents in mind, 2 Chicago aldermen are calling for public hearings.
We're trying to see how we can improve their quality of life. Their impact of life has been changed, and what we want to do is find out what the airlines and the FAA have in mind to help balance this out.
O'Connor says she wants to strike a balance between economic growth and her constituents' quality of life. Meanwhile, Diane Yost compares her plight to that of residents on the city's southeast side, dealing with petcoke dust pollution. She remembers what Mayor Emanuel said about it.
And he was talking about the issue of how important it is to enjoy your backyards, and that people have a right to enjoy their backyards. And so I'm wondering what that means then for all of us who are under these flight paths.
John Hilkovich is the transportation reporter for the Chicago Tribune, and he's joining us now. John, welcome.
Thanks, Barbara.
As long as O'Hare's been in business, there have been complaints along the flight paths about jet noise. What's so different now?
Well, under Chicago's O'Hare modernization program, the airfield has been redesigned. Crisscrossing runways are largely being replaced. Those crisscrossing runways fed flights basically on all points of the compass, so the noise was spread out. Under this new plan, we eventually will have 6 east-west parallel runways, so it's funneling that traffic arrivals and departures both to the east and west, and especially areas of Chicago, the northwest side, that had less noise in the past are now getting pounded with noise, really saturated, and they're up in arms.
These are highly populated areas, too.
It is, and you know, for the first time, we're really getting that impact from city residents. When Mayor Daley announced the O'Hare modernization program after an agreement with former Governor George Ryan in 2001, you know, the city of Chicago basically took about 400 acres of suburban land in Elk Grove Village, Bensonville, and it was those suburban residents that were feeling the impact of losing their homes, their businesses, as well as being inundated with noise. But now it's city residents for the first time. They weren't really, I guess, paying attention over the last 10 years that this was coming. As you alluded to in your piece, October, the flight patterns changed, and they're very angry and they want change.
Now, is this just the price of progress, or do people on the ground have any recourse?
There is very little recourse. This plan was laid out. It's now a $10 billion program and growing. It's behind schedule. The city wants to continue it. There's another runway, east-west runway, that's going to open up in 2015, and another one after that if the airlines will agree to that. So far, they haven't. The city at O'Hare has over 800,000 flights last year. They want to grow it to at least 1.2 million, 1.5 million, you know, and more over the years.
So this isn't going to get any better.
No, from a capacity standpoint, O'Hare will be able to handle much more traffic. Chicago hopes to take back that title of world's busiest airport from Atlanta. You know, it's a title O'Hare had ever since the dawn of the jet age, when it took over that title from Midway Airport. And you know, the airport is just huge revenue for the city.
Now, all of this construction was supposed to reduce delays and increase capacity. Has that happened?
Not yet. The city says, well, you know, we're not done with the program. But we do have 4 parallels now, and O'Hare is still one of the most delayed airports in the country. We've seen, you know, it has been an extraordinary winter, but even in past winters, we've routinely seen on bad snow days, you know, 500, 600, 800 flights canceled. So this has been advertised as, you know, the bad weather solution to delays and cancellations at O'Hare, and it hasn't panned out.
I'm just wondering, too, in terms of making any changes whatsoever, clearly arrivals and departures are based on where the runways are located and the weather.
Right.
But you have to go through not only the city, but the FAA. What kind of red tape or procedure is involved in getting anything changed? Well,
there could be changes, but it's going to cost money, especially at night. What the residents around O'Hare want is, you know, for the noise to be spread out. At night at O'Hare, they pretty much use 1 arrival runway and 1 departure runway. So that means that planes are just coming in and coming out over the same corridors, and limited areas are getting the noise. Residents want more runways used, but that's going to cost money. The new North Tower that opened in 2008, that closes after 10 p.m. The new South Tower that will open in 2015, the city and the FAA have no plans to operate that in the overnight hours. So there are solutions that could be done, and Mike Quigley, Jan Schakowsky, members of Congress are pushing for more use of runways, and there are some long-term solutions that will help at least nibble at the edges. The airlines are retiring and have been retiring their older, noisier aircraft. They've been doing it largely for fuel efficiency because it's to their benefit that way. But over the long term, there will be quieter planes. However, even those more sophisticated engines tend to be noisy during the climb out from the airport and the descent into the airport.
I was going to say, when they're that close to your house,
right,
quiet is a matter of question. Talk about the Fly Quiet guidelines. What are they, and how effective have they been?
Well, City of Chicago does have these, as you said, Fly Quiet guidelines that are in effect from 10 p.m. till 7 a.m. nightly. And it basically is preferred runways that the city wants the FAA to use, preferred flight corridors for pilots, trying to go over the Kennedy, trying to go over forest preserves, other less populated areas. But when you're talking about the city of Chicago and the suburbs, you know, there aren't really less populated areas for the most part. And also important, the Fly Quiet rules While the pilots do pay attention to them, it's really their last consideration. I mean, their first consideration has to be safety. They have to take into effect the weather, the wind, the weight of the plane, fuel efficiency, where they're going. I mean, they have to, when they leave the airport, they always have to turn in one direction or another. So the fly quiet tends to be the last consideration.
And they're not mandatory, from what I understand.
No, they're not mandatory, and they aren't in most cities. There are a few examples in Southern California, in Orange County. John Wayne Airport for years has had actually a curfew at night on commercial planes. We're not going to see that at O'Hare because it's the city's intention that after the passenger flights end at 10, 11 midnight, they hope to have freight cargo planes operating all night until the morning.
Talk about residential soundproofing. I know some people have been eligible for that.
Right. There is a program. It's federally funded, and you could have soundproofing for your doors and windows. It does lessen the impact to some extent. I think it's had a good benefit in schools where students have been able to learn, and not be interrupted as much. With the homes, it's sort of a mixed bag, and also the noise contours that allow funding for homes is limited. And it's based on the old runway format at O'Hare. The FAA is in a long process of reevaluating the noise contours. So there could be more money available for more homeowners, but again, that's going to take years.
And it may be good this time of year, but we all have to go outside in the summer.
Right, and that's what people are worried about with these record number of complaints since October when the new runway opened. What's going to happen when people open their windows?
We'll leave it at that. John Hilgovich, we thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Even more issues tonight with pension crisis, and should it be illegal to smoke with children in the car? Those are just a few of the stories we're discussing coming up next.
A showdown is coming on the pension crisis. Public employee unions are demanding higher taxes instead of smaller pension checks. But can the city afford it? In Chicago, more than 140,000 city workers are joining forces to fight new laws that reduce their benefits.
There's a lot of times there's strength in numbers, so rather than one group trying to fight it, if you can get 9 different groups together, your voice becomes a lot louder.
How do I feel about getting together with other unions? Go for it.
In Illinois, same-sex marriage becomes law of the land on June 1st. But next door in Indiana, the state Senate this week moved closer to a ban on gay marriage in the state's constitution. A spirited fight is underway. What does that mean for Illinois?
I hope it doesn't affect Illinois. I don't think it will, because I'm totally against it. I think it doesn't affect my civil rights at all. If people want to be together and love each other, they should be able to be.
No smoking in bars, no smoking in restaurants, no smoking in public buildings, and now a new proposal to ban smoking in cars with kids inside. For those who ignore it, a $100 fine. And a new front opens in the pizza wars. First, Jon Stewart knocks Chicago's deep dish specialty.
Deep dish pizza is not only not better than New York pizza, it's not pizza.
Now a Supreme Court justice piles on. For Chicagoans, tough words to swallow.
Oh, it's delicious.
I'm Midwestern. I'm from Chicago. Yeah, I had one last night.
No word if the judge had pizza while he was in Chicago. Pizza and so much more to tackle today. Joining us, Art Sims, TV and radio personality, Cece Rogers, journalist and lecturer at Medill School of Journalism at Northwestern University, and Tisha Lewis, reporter and fill-in anchor with Fox 32 Chicago. Welcome, everybody. So city unions are joining forces now, and they're asking for higher taxes instead of pension cuts. And Art, can that fly?
Not at all. Chaos, pandemonium, and ridiculousness. That's all it would be. Raising taxes would be absolutely crazy. Things are already high here in Chicago and in the state of Illinois. People are leaving left and right, and you want to raise taxes. Now, here's the problem. Give the people what they want. If I've been on my job for 30 plus years and it's time for me to retire and I've been paying into a pension, I expect to get my money.
Well, you can't have both, right? There's a trade-off, Cece.
There absolutely is, and actually this problem, it's a real problem. The city has something like $18 billion in unfunded liabilities. That's real money. They have to come up with $600 million next year that they just simply don't have. And so there are effects going on even as we speak. So everybody's going to have to give a little, but raising taxes, this state has already raised taxes, and they're talking about if they let those roll off next January, that's another $2 billion that we won't have.
Well, that's right, Tisha. We just had a state income tax increase, which may or may not be made permanent. So is it politically palatable for the unions to ask for higher taxes right now?
Well, you know what's interesting, at least from the union's perspective, is it seems like their position is that we follow the rules of the game, and now you want to change the rules of the game after it's already started. This group union that's been formed, the We Are One Chicago, what I found interesting is that if you go to their Twitter profile, We Are One Chicago, they have less than a dozen followers. So they haven't quite waged the campaign and their mission on social media just yet. You know, we saw with the Occupy movement that was something that really gained steam on social media, and that's kind of how they were able to garner so much public support. We haven't seen that yet.
But then, Tisha, you have to look at the difference of the demographic. We're talking about people that are getting ready to retire, people who may not be as socially savvy as the younger demographic. But I guarantee you, the more and more this is talked about and energy is put into it, people are going to jump on this bandwagon because, no, we cannot afford higher taxes.
And, you know, the other aspect of this is that the unions have picked up on this, but there are people suffering already. It falls on all of us. There are Medicaid recipients who are not able to find doctors who will accept Medicaid because the state is not paying its bills.
So there's a lot of pain that's going around.
That's
here.
absolutely
it's
right.
Not just the public employee unions.
Correct.
We have to get to another political battle next door in Indiana, where the state is moving toward a constitutional amendment would define marriage as between a man and a woman only. This passed the state Senate in Indiana on Monday. Is Indiana just going in the opposite direction from Illinois and Iowa?
It appears that they are going in the opposite direction, but them going in the opposite direction seemingly would benefit Illinois, because should that actually move forward in Indiana, you will have same-sex couples that are coming to the state of Illinois to get married, coming to Chicago to take advantage of wedding rates and packages in our city. So it's you have a balance of both worlds.
And that's a big business. Wedding planners are saying that they're already inundated, even though in Chicago and Illinois it's not exactly, it's not law yet. But Indiana has been going a different way all along. Indiana's got a good budget.
But Art, does this send a message that Illinois is more welcoming of diversity than Indiana, and could that reflect badly on Indiana?
Illinois should be more welcome to diversity. We are a state of diverse people. In Indiana, shame on them. They should look at it as well. Love is love. Accept people for who they are. Understand that people who love each other have a buying power that you just cannot even imagine. And the funniest thing is Indiana has so many cities that celebrate gay pride and have great gay districts and communities. And how dare you to say, you know, we're not going to go with this. So, oh, well, you lose out. I won't stop buying gas in Indiana. But I guarantee you, if you won't let gays get married in Indiana, shame on you.
Well, you know, originally they were also going to ban civil unions, and that's the thing that was pulled out of this bill on Monday, which is going to delay a constitutional amendment. Originally, the voters were going to decide in November. Now it's going to be pushed back to 2015. So the question is, given the way that the country's attitudes are changing, do you think that the opponents of gay marriage can hold out until 2015?
Well, now they're saying that the Supreme Court, because of that, it will get kicked to the Supreme Court sooner rather than later, and that may decide it for everyone, pretty much.
And the pensions, too, may end up, at least in the Illinois Supreme Court.
Here's a thought. Accept same-sex love and marriage and get over it and make some money.
Here in Illinois, another political battle that's maybe coming up is there is a proposal from an Illinois state senator to ban smoking in cars if occupants of the car are under 18 years old. And if you're caught, another fine, $100 fine. What do you think?
You know, this is a hot topic, and when I first read about this and heard about this, you have to think initially that it's so much of a challenge for law enforcement right now to crack down and actually enforce texting in cars. And so it seems like this would really be a push and a difficult task to try to enforce this if they were to move forward with this.
And apparently they're not going to actually watch people in their cars and nab somebody who's smoking. It's if you happen to be pulled over for something else and you happen to be smoking and you happen to have a kid under the age of 18 in the car.
But there is a real public health element here, because the testimony is that secondhand smoke hurts children more than it hurts adults.
Well, I was born in the era where the parents smoked in the cars, the windows were up tight, and I'm still here. So, I mean, you really have to look at
Sympathetic,
that.
are we?
Right. And then you have to look at the fact of what would the parents be smoking when you pull up to the car? Does that add to that? You know, are the children then put in custody as well? Because, you know, some parents just don't smoke cigarettes in the car. So you have got to look at a lot of
I take it you're against this.
Oh, it's ridiculous. There are other things that need to be policed and patrolled in this city, and why in the world am I worried about what people are doing in their cars that they paid for with their children that they had? So, no, that's an issue that does not bother me, you know.
Well, Illinois is not out on a limb. 6 other states have already done this.
Well, and it is a very important topic that's gained a lot of momentum. Look at CVS pulling tobacco products off the shelves. And that wasn't because of customers, that was because of their pharmacy benefit management business, that they were standing to lose business in that realm. So there's a lot of pressure all the way around
and
on
they
this
ultimately
issue.
gained a lot of support by making a decision that seemingly was a moral decision. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. And, you know, the other side of that is that, you know, there are children, they shouldn't necessarily be exposed to secondhand smoke. So it'll be interesting how they plan to enforce this. It seems that a lot of stars would have to align for law enforcement to really crack down on someone smoking in the car with a child.
But you mentioned the CVS banning cigarettes or about to ban cigarettes and this. I mean, the stigma certainly seems to be growing in this country against any kind of smoke.
Because what would be different than smoking in the home and in the car? You know what I'm saying?
That's
so are we
true.
going to start policing people in their homes, in their backyards? Is Big Brother watching everything? So, I don't get it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Where do you draw the line at that point?
$100 fine, though. The city and the state could use the revenue.
That's
to help
true.
pay for the pensions.
Right.
There you go.
That's right. We have the never-ending pizza wars. And now we have U.S. Supreme Court Justice Scalia has weighed in. This is after Jon Stewart knocked Chicago pizzas famously, and now we have a Supreme Court Justice who says it's not pizza. He's from Jersey. What does he know?
Well, you know, this doesn't surprise me a bit. My sister-in-law is Italian-Cuban, grew up in Brooklyn, and she maintains to this day that although she eats deep dish Chicago pizza, she says that's not real pizza. It's not real Italian Neapolitan pizza.
It's not. But to me, all of these people are player haters. Why hate on our pizza? Our pizza is amazing.
It is.
You know, I've never seen any of the pizza places empty. They're all, you know, they serve great quality product. Why are you, let it be.
I mean,
Eat.
deep dish pizzas to Chicago as a hot dog without ketchup is to Chicagoans. I mean, it is the essence of Chicago. And it is pizza. That's like saying that lasagna is not pasta because it's laid out differently.
Well, let me read you what Jon Stewart said about Chicago pizza. He called it an above-ground marinara swimming pool for rats.
Oh my God,
Oh,
that's
really?
just terrible.
And you know
Yeah,
what? That's
he's never
crazy.
had one. Let's send him a Giordano's.
Right.
Well, actually, Mark Melnati from the Lou Melnati's chain went on Stewart's show and declared a truce, and he gave Stewart some pizza. But what about a Supreme Court justice? That's a pretty high official to be taking on one of our, signature products in Chicago.
Surprising that he would go that route and take it on.
Too much time on his hands. Too much time on his hands. Eat our pizza or leave us alone.
He's on a diet. He's bitter. He couldn't have a piece of
Right.
deep dish,
It's not
right?
on his Atkins
Right,
diet. That's
right.
the way I look at it. Why? That's an issue that doesn't even need to be debated. Yeah, our pizza is amazing. It's wonderful. We have a great city, wonderful food, and you just happen to not like deep dish pizza, that's your thing.
It kind of reminds me when Nathan's, the New York hot dog chain, tried to move into Chicago, and how many Nathan's stands can you find in Chicago today?
Are there
Right,
any?
right,
Right. Maybe
right.
one or two here, I think, but it's no big deal. See, the most important part about this, we're all going to leave here, get a deep dish pizza, buy a pack of cigarettes, find someone's children, and we're going to have a good day. How about that?
I'm beginning to wonder if New Yorkers have an inferiority complex that they have to attack our pizza. I don't know.
Could be. I mean, they're into that thin crust. It's a whole, it's culture wars.
Well,
It's
New Yorkers
culture
for a
wars
long
pizza.
time have always felt that they have the best everything. So, you know, that's probably what that's all about.
So I think that this panel is ruling Justice Scalia out of order.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. Art Sims, CeCe Rogers, and Tisha Lewis, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. She's known as the Queen of Tape. Why? Take a closer look at her art and you'll get the picture. Ana Dominguez was among 600 artists from around North America who showed their work at Chicago's one-of-a-kind show. What's unique about Ana's art? Her medium is not watercolor or oil paint, it's tape. Tape of every color, shape, and size.
I work with every kind of tape: pinstriping, masking, duct tape, glitter tape.
A painter or sculptor of tape. For Ana, this unconventional form of art inspired her entirely by accident. The former studio art major knew painting was her passion, but she never thought a trip to buy art supplies would lead her down this path.
I was originally set to paint a picture, and I ran out of paints, so I went to the art store, and I saw these 3 colored rolls of tape, so I bought them. And never bought paint. So I went back to my apartment and I just kind of started laying it down.
After mastering her very own medium, and perhaps the country's foremost tape artist, Ana has become a popular choice for those looking for unique artwork. She's created pieces for Chicago athletes and TV personalities. Now she's putting the finishing touches on a massive picture of the Chicago skyline for the Scout restaurant. Ana spends between 10 to 50 hours on an image. She doesn't have to go far for creative inspiration. She lives in the Chicago home once occupied by a famous American author.
We are currently in Ernest Hemingway's old room where he lived. It's amazing that I am able to do my artwork where such an awesome, great author wrote some of his book.
As a child, Ana used painting as an escape. She's thankful for her love of art because without it, her life could have taken a much different turn.
My mom abandoned me 2 weeks after I was born. She abandoned my sister and I in an apartment alone. Within a year, we were in 7 foster homes. And the one thing that kind of kept me grounded at 4 years old, I worked on art. But the thing that kept me alive is, my sister, I had someone, I wasn't there by myself. For that week that we were abandoned, she fed me. She still has a bird mark from having to warm up the bottle and, feed me. So she is the one that kept me alive. Definitely my parents that adopted me, up until that point, my sister was my foundation. I'm not happy that those things happen, but in a way I'm thankful because nothing will ever get to me like that did.
To learn more about Ana Dominguez's work, log on to her website, thequeenoftape.com.
That's it for today's show. You are now in the loop. Join us online right now for the after show.
We'll talk about where medical marijuana should be sold in Chicago. Until next week, I'm Chris Bury.
And I'm Barbara Pinto. Good night.